My new ball partner, Bharat Sundaresan, is in Brisbane. I'm in Melbourne. It's great to see you again, Baz, and hear your dulcet tones. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing really well, Tom. All I want to say is, last evening was all about Michael Neser. I mean, some might say the last 6.5 years have been about Michael Neser for me and him. Firstly, the hashtag Neser must play. The hashtag was trending last night, so that in itself was special. And just literally 15 minutes before I left my hotel to come into the SEN studio, I met someone on the road. He said, "Man, I'm an English fan. Really disappointed, but all I want to tell you is Neser must play." So it's really caught on, and just listening to Jared's call about BazBall being on the edge of the plank, about to fall off into the abyss. I would say yes, not just on the edge of the plank. They are hanging on by a toehold, really. This whole legacy that they were planning to build and kind of define themselves with by doing something that few English teams have been able to do in the last 30, 40 years, which is win an Ashes series. Now we are looking at, hang on. First of all, I know it's 2-0 and they can technically come back and win it 3-2. But, there was a difference in the tone, like you said. I was there at Lord's when the Johnny Bairstow incident happened and Australia took a 2-0 lead. That's when the whole moral victories thing was born, right? That's when Ben Stokes and his team spoke about moral victories. But just the way the first two test matches had gone, Tommy, forget it. We didn't buy into the moral victories, but it didn't feel like a overwhelming 2-0 lead as compared to now. And no surprises that the narrative from the English camp and the English captain is also very different. And not to forget, they've lost the support of the media. Now everybody, I wouldn't say has turned on them, but the patience has run out. We will talk about it in detail later, but Nick Holt's piece this morning was quite telling, where he said if England don't win in Adelaide, don't win a live test in the series, I think Brendan McCullum's, the axe might just fall on him.
I love your tweet, Baz, before. What an amazing day for the great man in terms of Michael Neser and for the campaign. It was trending last night, as you said before, and I've already had a few Aussie and English fans on the streets of Brisbane simply yell, hashtag Neser must play at me this morning, and you've screenshotted a photo of hashtag Neser must play, which takes us to the first ball of this over. And there is a post-mortem to Brisbane around England, but I think it's important we celebrate Michael Neser, not just for the player he is, but for the person that he is and for what he represents in this Australian cricket team and his journey over the last 6 or so years since he debuted. His five was remarkable, not just because of the fact that he's bowling alongside Mitchell Starc, who's been the dominant bowler for this entire series, but also because many of his wickets were in the daytime. He picked up some big scalps, and the view. I heard Rob Key speaking before the Ashes saying that medium paces with keepers up to the stumps just don't work in Australia or in international cricket, and it's exactly what worked. It was perfect. A fifer that he will never forget in front of his home crowd. You must have been so proud as the #1 ticket holder of the Neser Must Play fan club.
Well, the Neser Must Play campaign founder, you can say, co-founder, because Adam Collins was there as well when it all started, and I will never tire of telling the story or retelling the story of how it all started. And because it really, in a way, sums up Michael Neser, the man and the cricketer. It was the 2019 Ashes, his first big away tour with this Australian team. And he was a fifth choice fast bowler. You remember there was Starc, who played only one test, but there was Cummins, Hazelwood, James Pattinson, Peter Siddle, and Michael Neser. And Michael Neser would just bowl day in, day out in the nets. And it was at the Lord's nets, I remember, where he was troubling Steve Smith. And I remember saying, there's only one bowler on this tour, English or Australian, who's got the better of Steve Smith at least a couple of times, and it was him. And I got Adam Collins to ask him this question during a Crick Bus chat that Adam was having with him. And I was stood right next to them, and Michael Neser said, nah, Steve Smith is a great player, and he just played it down. And I remember mid-interview, even though I wasn't part of it, I just yelled out, Tommy, I'm quite impulsive. I said, Michael, what are you saying? If you're not going to talk up for yourself, I'll do it for you. And that's when I created the hashtag Neser Must Play campaign. And Kolo and I, we were fortunate to be on air with Flem when he took his first wicket, Hasib Hamid, with thunder and lightning in the background at the Adelaide Oval, 4 years ago. And you know, for me to have jumped on last night in that 40-minute period where he firstly opened up the game with the wicket of Will Jackson, that extraordinary catch from Steve Smith, and then took the wicket of Ben Stokes, who he had trouble throughout the day. Great catch again from Alex Carey, and then to be there for the 5th wicket. He just showed you the value of what you can achieve through just grit and determination and never giving up. I bumped into Manas late in the evening, and you know, he's been a big supporter of the hashtag Neser Must Play campaign as senior Queensland cricketer and now Queensland captain. And he got a little emotional. He spoke about how a few months ago, you know, worried that the writing might be on the wall when his hamstring injury happened, and how much work Michael Neser has put into his cricket over the years. And for him to do that, and can I just say something? I find it. I heard a few of the English journalists compare him with Darren Stevens and say, "Oh,
did they?
England."
Did they really?
I mean, not directly, but say, "Oh, it's funny that England got beaten by, you know, a medium pacer with the keeper up." That's being extremely disrespectful to Michael Neser. Nothing against Darren Stevens and those guys,
Of course.
but you're talking about slow English medium pace on you know, those English pitches, but on a hard gab-up pitch for Michael Neser to not be the tallest, not be the quickest, but to do what he's been able to do year in, year out, takes some extra skill, which he showed in you know, fully yesterday. And I'm sorry about that voice. Nobody in England sounds like that. That was just me being annoyed by them, you know, kind of downgrading what Michael Neser did.
Well said, Baz. Yeah, take all that with a grain of salt. And well done to Michael Neser. There's something extra special when elite athletes achieve something, and we all know, and he would know, being as self-deprecating as he is, that there might not be too many other opportunities to do something similar. Like, it's great when Mitchell Starc takes 5, but Michael Neser might, as we said 2 days ago, only play 5 or 3 or 10, 15 test matches, and a 5 for at home at the Gabba in an Ashes test. That will be a moment that he'll never forget. So, Baz, well done. You've covered that beautifully. Ball 1, Michael Neser. Ball 2 is this.
Archer with some words to Steve Smith.
It's a bit too late now, Joff.
You know, and this battle against Jofra Archer.
You got 17 stage change. Well, I'm so sensitive.
So after the unpleasantries comes the ball. Smith hooks over the keeper's head down to the boundary for 4. And the words follow. Batter and fast bowler, eyeball to eyeball.
This carry on from England actually embarrasses them.
I love Simon Kadich there. So Baz, Jofra Archer versus Steve Smith under lights was always going to be the box office moment of the series. And in some ways, it was box office because of the one-on-one battle, but the game situation meant that there wasn't much riding on it in terms of a win or a loss. The reality is that Jofra Archer has bowled 220 deliveries to Steve Smith in Test cricket, has never got him out, and Smith has made 130 runs. So yes, he's hit him, but it's like Smith has, in the same way that McGrath used to target the best bowler of the opposition, it's like Steve Smith targets the best batter, and then Steve Smith targets the most dangerous bowler, and that is Jofra Archer. And it was engrossing to watch last night, wasn't it? And it just adds some spice for the rest of the series.
You'd hope so, but like the question is, where was this fire? Like Simon Kadich said, and Ricky Ponting has said on Channel 7, and Steve Smith said himself. I mean, what's the point of all this fire and brimstone when you're defending 60? And if this is what we had seen from him throughout the series, we saw it with Bumrah last year, didn't we? Yeah. And Bumrah's not someone for too many words, Tommy. But you know, whatever the situation of the match, every time Bumrah had a ball in his hand, Australia were under the pump. And if you remember, even going into the last innings of the series, if Bumrah had somehow managed to stay fit for one more innings, there's no guarantee that Australia would have chased down 150 or 160 they needed to win the series. It could have been India leveling the series and keeping the Border Gavaskar trophy. This is different. And for Steve Smith, it's always been personal, this Jofra Archer battle. And you know why? Because I was there at Lord's as well, Tommy. And yes, he hit him, but some of the words that have been used about that battle over the years of him being terrorized and all of that is, pardon my French, but maybe I'll stick to English. I'll say it's pretty terrible because, You know, if you understand your cricket, and I don't want to sound like a smart ass here, but that was an up and down pitch at Lord's, and the conditions were not great. Jofra Archer was bowling outstandingly well. It was very quick, it was menacing, but the reason Steve Smith got hit was he ducked to a ball which would have ideally just gone over the top of his head, but this one just kept low because of the uneven bounce, and that is the reason Steve Smith got hit, not because he was terrorized or he was, felled by Jofra Archer, like some have said. And and this is not me throwing out a defense for Steve Smith. That's just the cricketing fact here. So is Jofra Archer a really good bowler? He is. Is he a terrorizer? Well, we haven't seen enough of him in this series to show anything. His first spell in Perth was terrific when he got rid of Jake Weatherall and he hit Steve Smith on the arm and Manas Labuschagne, and he got Manas Labuschagne out. But from that point on, when it mattered, we haven't seen that from Jofra Archer, and that's what would annoy the English fans as well. And I'm not in the camp of bagging Jofra Archer for he is a bit doozy on the field, right? But it takes all sorts to play cricket.
Yes.
The same things have been said about a lot of great cricketers over the years. Or Mark Waugh, the great Mark Waugh. Yeah, exactly. He had to deal with it. Lazy, doesn't care enough because of his body language. And I think Jofra Archer cares as much about his cricket as anyone else. He's a proud man. But the carry on. And you know what, Tommy, just speaking to a couple of the English journals as well, one thing, I mean, this is not, they didn't spell it out very in those words, but the fact that when they went 2-0 down and that Johnny Bairstow incident was used to galvanize the English team. We've heard our own colleague Stuart Broad talk about it, and he played a big role in that galvanizing bit or aspect of it. I wonder if this was just something, either Ben Stokes trying to light a fire under Jofra's bottom, or whether they were trying to sort of get create a contrived incident with which they could, because that's the kind of feisty character Ben Stokes is, right? Because he didn't back down. He backed up his bowler, and the little exchange that hasn't really hit the airwaves yet, but I think it will. You just heard it briefly between Ben Stokes and Jake Weatherall. It wasn't very clear. It was something about him making 70 and having a smile on his face. Yeah. So that'll come out as well. So Ben Stokes was adding or encouraging Jofra Archer to why not as well? Like, I mean, as captain, you want your fastest bowler to be fired up, and it was his fastest spell ever in his career. Yeah. So you can just hope that we see that Jofra Archer on what will be a slower pitch in Adelaide. So maybe the horse has bolted. Yeah,
Jofra Archer has taken 3 wickets this series at 57. He's bowled 47 overs. And I reckon and this is the same for many strike bowlers, Baz, so he's not unique. But if you put Jofra Archer in a bowling attack alongside Michael Neser and Scott Boland and Nathan Lyon, I reckon he's a lot better. But he doesn't have a lot of help from the other end. And then I can't work out, and maybe you can help me here. Is it actually a strength or a weakness that he can go up and down in the gears? It's impossible for him to bowl 150 all the time, but he looks like a shell of himself when he's bowling 135. So I'm not quite sure what to make of him.
No, I mean, that's been him throughout his brief Test career, right? Like, he has spells when he looks very dominant and I wouldn't say unplayable, but he can look like the bowler who can tear open the game apart. But he hasn't done it often enough. It hasn't been easy for him. He hasn't been able to play a lot of first-class cricket in the last few years. There was a time when you wondered if he will come back to Test cricket, but he has come back. And this is the one battle that they've kept him on cold ice for. Ideally, when I remember 2019 when he made his debut, the whole talk was, ooh, Archer in the Ashes in 18 months from now, or 2.5 years from now, 21, 22. But that wasn't to be. By then, his Test career had already hit a brick wall. But he's come back, and we saw in that first innings in Perth that he can deliver. But we've already seen the 2 tests on the fastest pitches. I mean, the Gabba this time was flat, but there was still some bounce. All I can tell you is the Adelaide Oval, maybe it'll be that extra airspeed that he creates that they need at the Adelaide Oval because the pitch has been really fat. But we'll see if he can deliver on that promise, because you do wonder how long will he stick with Test cricket, or will they stick with him if this doesn't work out?
Yeah, and I did hear Brad Haddon say that he was unsure whether Jofra Archer would play in Adelaide at all. It was interesting to see some stats that of his 210 Test catches in the field, the same as Rahul Dravid. 180 have been in the slips. He's as good as Mark Waugh was in that position, and his highlights package probably isn't too different either.
No, I think both of them took some freakish catches, right? I mean, just their reflexes, just the way they were able to take so many catches. I mean, Mark Waugh was, and Steve Smith continues to, sort of behind their body, like if that makes sense, right? Like it almost feels like their hands have some sort of magnetic field when they stick just one hand, right or left, and it feels like they can pull the ball back in a weird way. They are both freakish cricketers, and Steve Smith is the thing with Steve Smith is he's done this so often, and he himself spoke about why he was so happy with this particular catch because of the difficulty levels, that you mentioned, or he mentioned, where he was sort of unsighted because Alex Carey was standing in front of the stumps, and that wasn't his natural side either to go down to his left, but the way he just clung on to it, special catch. Freak cricketer.
Freak. Okay, this is the third delivery of the first over, Baz. Just a brief word on these couple of players, please. Hello, Baz. Good to see you for the first time today, actually. Hello.
There you go.
How are you there, brother? Okay, so Mitchell Starc, in his first 99 test matches, 3 man of the matches. In his last 3 man of the matches. So he's got 6 for his career. His record for the series is fantastic as well. What's he got? 18 wickets at 14. And also very important with the ball. Mitchell Starc is having one of those golden summers that we never thought he'd have at the age of 35, maybe.
12 years later, someone called Mitchell and bowling left-arm express pace is tormenting England in an Ashes series, right? It's a different kind of domination that Mitchell Johnson, held or really pummeled them into the dust in 2013-14. And this is a different kind of domination from Mitchell Starc. Yes, he's all over the English. He's dismissed pretty much everyone in that batting lineup, from Crawley to Pope to Duckett to Root a few times, to I think he's got Brook as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Stokes for sure, and Jamie Smith. So he's gone to town with that top 7 of England, and not to forget his very vital hand with the bat in hand.
One of the pleasures of listening to the SEN commentary over the last few days was Ian Healy reflecting on Alex Carey's work behind the stumps. Not only that, he compared him to Don Talon, who was a great keeper up at the stumps and in the 40s and 50s, also a Queenslander. Adam Gilchrist was full of praise, as was Brad Haddon as well. So these wicket keepers, they come together, and many of them, in fact, all of them just said it's as good as wicket-keeping performances they've ever seen. And it is a credit to how hard he works, as we saw in Sri Lanka on a daily basis before every single day's play.
Even when he's unbeaten on 130, as we saw in Gaul, he always spends half an hour with Andre Borovic, who deserves a lot of credit as well for the work that he's put in with Alex Carey, a gun wicketkeeper at grade cricket level in Melbourne, and people listening to this show would know who Boro is.
Geelong great.
I was fortunate to sit alongside Ian Healy, Tommy, 4 years ago when Alex Carey made his debut at the Gabba. And when Carey was going through the warm-ups, and Heels, being Heels, the greatest ever, picked up a couple of things, just the way he was collecting the ball, and he spoke about what he needs to do and what he can get better at. 4 years on, Alex Carey, let's face it, is the best wicketkeeper in the world in Test cricket. I mean, purely on his wicket-keeping skills, forget about the batting form that he's been in, what he's averaged 48 since that career-saving innings in Christchurch, the 90-odd not out when he guided Australia home from a very tricky situation, a tricky position to win that series. But his wicket-keeping was just, I spoke about Jack Russell. There are so many clips that do the rounds of Jack Russell standing up to the seamers in the last or from the last 20, 30 or from 20, 25 years ago. Alex Carey's performance was right up there. And to impress Ian Healy, Brad Haddon and Adam Gilchrist, on the same night, that's like, if you're a musician and you have like 3 of the greatest ever going, 3 of the greatest drummers ever going, that was one of the best performances we've seen ever. Like, imagine Keith Moon and Dave Lombardi and John Bonham sitting there and going, Keith, you're pretty good.
Yeah, you're the best there is in the world at the moment. I can't remember the last time a wicketkeeper in international cricket has improved so much from debut to where they are now. Like he came on as a serviceable gloveman, and now, as you said, he's the best in the world, and he proved it up to the stumps. So the fourth delivery, Baz, I want your 11, please, for the Adelaide Test. Now, we did this before Brisbane, and I got some feedback online. So give us your 11. Be the first to give us your 11 for Adelaide, please.
I wonder if I should be slightly controversial or not, but
Just
we'll
do,
see.
do what you think. I mean, I'm the one who picked Neser for Brisbane, and you didn't. But that was
that's
unlike you.
Yeah, I mean, that is correct. So, right. So, okay, let's start from this. Travis Head and Jake Weatherall. I know there's, for some strange reason, still some chatter about whether they will stick with that opening combination.
Again,
I'm
grain
not
of
sure
salt. Grain of salt. They're locked in for the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, because it was their opening partnership that really set the test match up. They just completely knocked the test match on its head. But so Head and Weatherall, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, Usman Khawaja,
Here we
Cameron
go.
Green. I'm just gonna.
Yep. So you want
why
Khawaja at
not?
5?
Whether I want it or not, I just have a sneaky feeling. And look, maybe they will stick with Josh Inglis, and I'm sure. I mean, I would pick Josh Inglis and get him to bat at 6 as well as Alex Carey batted. But the fact that he batted 7, I don't know the real reason. I haven't.
Well, what's
found
your
out
11?
yet.
What's your 11, Baz? So who's at number 5 in your 11?
Oh, so so I'm not playing the guessing game, is it?
No. I want your opinion.
Oh, fine. Oh, then it's easy. Then it's Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, 3, 4, Cam Green 5, Inglis 6, Alex Carey 7, Pat Cummins as captain, Michael Neser, Mitch Stark, and Nathan Lyon.
Yeah. Okay. So no room for Doggett, and Scott Boland rested or dropped?
Rested. Oh,
Yeah,
no way.
I was gonna
Dropped.
say.
He bowled brilliantly. No, rested. Because, see, there was some chatter beforehand about how, they might give him a break before Melbourne. And I'm sure Scott Boland doesn't want the break. That's just how he is. But based on how Michael Neser bowled here, I know it was a very horse for course selection. And maybe they might just stick with Scott Boland. But we still don't know whether Pat Cummins is going to play all 3. From the last, everything so far Pat Cummins has said, he stuck to it. Like, he didn't play the last test because we were told he would play in Adelaide. But he also did say it's unlikely he'll play back-to-back tests. So if Pat's going to play Adelaide and Sydney, so in my book, it makes sense to just give Boland a break, bring Pat Cummins in for him, and then have Boland ready for the Melbourne and come in place for Pat Cummins.
I know it makes good sense for radio for us to disagree, but I can't disagree with you, Baz. I think that 11 is bang on.
But with the Uzi Khawaja at number 5?
No,
or the
your
other one?
opinion. So the 11 that you've said with Green at 5, Inglis at 6, Carey at 7, and then the bowlers being Cummins, Neser, Stark, Lyon.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think that is, my view is, that is the best 11 to play in Adelaide. And it's a seriously long batting order as well.
It is. And can I just say, at some point, Michael Neser deserves to play a red ball test.
Yeah, that's
only
true.
3 pink ball ones.
Okay, last one on this. You think Usman Khawaja is genuinely, your information or your inclination is Usman Khawaja is in the mix to play in Adelaide?
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's not part of the squad, which is what we're hearing. I mean, Usman Khawaja is very clear that he's not going anywhere and he expects to be part of this squad till the end of the Ashes. Now, whether he gets a nod or not, because I cannot see for the life of me how they change that opening combination after what it's done in the last 2 test matches. Right?
Wouldn't it be a step backwards to drop Inglis and bring Khawaja back in?
No, it would be, in my opinion, but which is why I was a little surprised with Inglis batting at 7, because I thought when they picked Inglis, I thought this is, over Webster in particular, forget Uzi for a second, I thought, okay, this is a statement that they're making that we have our top 6 for the rest of the Ashes and maybe for the next 12 months with Head and Weatherall, Marnus Smith, Green and Inglis. But the fact that then they batted him at 7 as the specialist batter, it does like boggle the mind a little bit. But I mean, Inglis did make a big contribution on the field. And Marnus did with the run out of Ben Stokes. And Marnus, I thought, did a terrific job at first slip. He just took 1 catch, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he was very good in there. So even on that front, you'd be surprised if they bring back Usman Khawaja. But yeah, I mean, still think he'll be part of the squad, though, for Adelaide.
Good luck taking 20 wickets with Mitchell Starc batting at number 10 as well, given that Neser and Cummins would be 8, 9 either way. Baz, so many theories going around about this English cricket team, BazBall, the way they're playing, their methods, their philosophies, their messaging publicly and privately. What's yours?
I think if this was any other team, Tom Morris, and they were 2-0 down in this series, we would simply be looking at their performances and going, hey, this is just another opposition or touring team which has come. Their batters as a collective, yes, Joe Root and Ben Stokes have played Test cricket here before. And, Joe Root now has that 100 that he's ticked off as well. But it's just been a performance of a team whose batters haven't really come to grips with the conditions, whether it's in terms of, attack or defense. And similarly, they've been sucked into playing, trying to access the square boundaries and have been nicked off. And at the same time, the bowlers have come in, got excited by the bounce, they've hit the wrong lengths, and they've let Australia get away to quick starts, and then they've played catch-up. This is what we would have said if it was any other team. It's just because this English team and the narratives that they've built around themselves, and we've all contributed to it, that we're looking at all other factors here, like talking of, but, this is something more, it's their style, but it's not. I mean, it's what I saw of this English team and we saw of this English team in 2023 is very different to what we're seeing now.
So you're saying it's just, by and large, skill execution, the inability to execute skills
not
in
good enough.
pressure
It's
moments.
a team which is, it's just a team which has not been good enough to, doesn't look good enough to beat Australia in Australia, because they've not, like Ben Stokes said himself, they've not been able to, deal with the sustained pressure that every Australian team puts you under on home soil. Firstly, and secondly, skills-wise, they've just not been up for it. I mean, Stuart Broad, and I mentioned this to Stuart Broad as well before the start. I said, Ben Stokes is the only bowler who looks suited to bowl with the pink ball. Everybody's back of length. I saw it in the nets and I went, wait, who's going to actually make the most of the pink ball? And that's what Brody put so eloquently there on Sky Sports. So that's what it is. That's what it boils down to. They're 2-0 down, not because of some great philosophy of theirs that has failed. It's just the cricket that's failed because there's just not have been, as a collective bowling unit or a batting unit, been good enough.
Okay, the public messaging and the PR is important, specifically for Brendan McCullum, because as Nick Holt wrote, his job is now very much on the line, potentially as soon as Adelaide. What do you make of his comments that they, if anything, over-prepared before the Gabba test? I
think I wouldn't say there is some truth in it, but because they've now just been, it's just not reading the room is my thing. I kind of agree with him where like some of these players don't because their net sessions are so arbitrary, and I mentioned this a few times already. It's just a lot of batters except Ben Stokes and Joe Root. Most of the other net sessions are just net sessions for the sake of it, where it's just like hit it harder, or like just batting for a lot. Ollie Pope being a great example. Like, there's a reason why some of us watch net sessions, and I mentioned this yesterday on the show as well. He was looking so out of sorts. The more time you spend in the nets when you're so out of sorts, you're only going to make it worse for yourself.
Yeah.
But none of the coaches really stepped in. So it kind of made sense. And you and I were there yesterday, Tommy, when Jamie Smith was having a hit and Brendan McCullum walked in, and he was quite displeased to see Jamie Smith in the net. So I get where he's coming from, but to say that when you're 0-2 down, and to say it the way he did, but that's just how Brendan McCullum speaks, has turned this whole narrative around. And for the first time ever, I think as a collective, the English media and the former cricketers now are hand in hand, and they are very, very quickly. What is that Jared line? That they're hanging by the edge of the plank? They're ready to push them off the plank.
They are, and Jeffrey Boycott is probably leading that all the way from England. But there's others here as well. Vaughan, Hussain, Atherton, to a lesser extent, Broad, Phil Tufnell. These respected former players are all being critical in a similar way of this English team.